Hey guys, it is me, the Emerald Sword, and welcome back to another video, where today I'll be reviewing another book for you. So the book in question is another story that you can find in the Bachman books, 4 early stories by Stephen King, but specifically The Running Man, right there at the bottom. So, as a lot of other people do, I of course got this just to read Rage, because that's the cheapest way you can find Rage. And there's also The Long Walk, Road Work, and The Running Man in this collection. But if for whatever reason you either can't or don't want to get the omnibus, stay calm, there's a fix for that. The other Bachman books are still available to this day, and here is The Running Man by itself. And this is what I read it on, so yeah. It looks pretty thick if you look at it from here, but the audiobook I followed along with it was 7 hours and 42 minutes, so it's definitely on the shorter side of Stephen King. And the Carrie audiobook is like 7 hours and 24 minutes, so it's just a little bit longer than Carrie. But yeah. So anyway, what is The Running Man actually about? It's dark. So basically the year is 2025. Which at the time of filming this video is next year, and that is worrying substantially. Anyway, so in 2025, basically the government just doesn't even really matter. Game shows and television and stuff basically rule society, and the favorite game show for everyone is called The Running Man, where the person in question, who is the running man, has to survive as public enemy number 1 for 30 days. That's a whole month as public enemy number 1. What do? They did nothing. They're just public enemy number 1, and they got to survive for 30 days. So, as you can tell, this book is obviously very dark. There's not a lot of happy stuff in it. And it follows this guy called Ben Richards. My name is Ben, so that's pretty funny. Anyway, so Ben Richards, so he's a guy who lost his job, and society runs on old dollars and new dollars. It's like, say, something that cost $1 new is like 2 or 3 old dollars. So, like, that's how currency works here. Yeah, so basically he lost his job, and he just can't really get any money, and his daughter, who's 1.5 years, is currently dying from like the flu or like pneumonia or something, some sort of disease, and he needs a quick way to get cash. So what he does is he walks down to the Game Show Network building and applies for the Running Man, in which he is selected. And so basically from here on out, we just kind of get a brief summary of, we just kind of get a brief explanation as to what it is, like, the survive as public enemy for 30 days and stuff like that. And then he's off, and then he has to survive for 30 days. And then that's basically the rest of like the 5 or 6 hours of the book. So what he does is he's smart about things, right? So like the police have to find him and kill him in order for him to lose, and he doesn't want to lose. So what it is he's like smart about it. So he goes into like a basement thing, rigs an explosion, and then the thing explodes as he's escaping in the sewers. And then he comes out, and then this kid finds him, goes and gets his brother, and then his brother's like, hey, dude, my little sister's like dying of something in there too. I completely get it with your daughter. But what the Game Show Network doesn't want you to know is that all this pollution, like all these smokestacks that you see around, they're the cause of all of this. They're not going to say it was it was cancer or whatever. They're just going to say whatever on the death certificate. But either way, those smokestacks are not good. So the Ben Richards is like, okay, I'm starting to uncover secrets about this evil organization. So basically, the rest of the book follows. It's just kind of him going from place to place, being discovered, and then escaping the place. And so, yeah, so eventually he is able to hitchhike to a jetport in a place called Derry, Maine. That's where it is. Although whether or not it's the same universe as it is up for debate. I'm not sure about that myself. But, I mean, if you couldn't tell, The Running Man was a Richard Bachman book that came out in 82, and it was a Stephen King book that was released in 86. But it was written in about 81 or 82, so I guess The Running Man and it have the same location and Stephen King wasn't discovered yet. I think it would have been caught just like that, but but he got caught a different way. I'm going to discover that eventually after I finish all the Bachman books. But anyway, so like he goes to the jetport in Derry, Maine, but he hitchhikes with this girl who he basically takes as his hostage. And he decides to hijack a plane, and he's using his hostage as leverage to hijack the plane. So basically they get the plane up and running and stuff, and then they're on the plane, they're just flying to wherever. This is 8 days in, by the way. This is 8 days in. So he's not making the full 30. But anyway, if you can hear sirens, I don't know what that's about, so just don't worry about it. Anyway, so yeah, so they're just in the plane flying, and then Ben's friend Killian comes on the screen, who kind of helped him with the game and stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, by the way, so you've been doing this game for 8 days? Well, your wife and daughter got murdered like 10 days ago, so sorry about that. And so Ben's like, you mean the game murdered my family? And then Killian's like, no, the games didn't murder your family. Someone else did. No, we would never kill someone. And then I believe Killian. Whether or not you do is up to you, but I believe Killian personally. He just sounded like he was telling the truth for once. But anyway, so Ben's like, well, my family's dead, so I guess I'm just gonna, take what little life I have left and use it. So he kills both pilots. He kills McCone, who's kind of like the villain of this book. So he kills all of them with the gun. And then his hostage, whose name is Amelia, he lets her escape. He gives her a parachute, and then she shoots the door, doesn't open, and then it does, and then she flies out, and we never see her again. So her survivability is questionable. Anyway, so keep in mind, Ben has just taken tree branches to the stomach and like stabs and gunshots, and a cop car like shattered his ankle, so he has a broken ankle as well. It's like he's messed up. He's not making out of this alive. So in his final act of life, he I guess starts to drive the plane and flies it right into the Game Show Network building. So yeah, and that's how the book ends. There isn't a wrap-up after the plane explodes. The plane explodes, and then that's the end of the book. That's depressing, and that's very dark. And there are driving sounds outside. If you can hear that, I'm sorry. It's not under my control. Anyway, so that was The Running Man. And I've seen a few reviews for this book online, and everybody seems to suggest that all Richard Bachman books are very nihilistic. The Running Man is the 4th published, but my 2nd Bachman book, after Rage, of course. And I'm inclined to agree that both Bachman books I've read so far are very nihilistic. The Running Man especially. The Running Man is set in a dystopian future, which is next year now. And like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, there's no redeeming qualities. It's just dark, depressing, and it just ends abruptly with no resolution. It's very nihilistic, which means no light at the end of the tunnel, just dark stuff. It's like nihilistic is a bad thing. And yeah, it's a very dark book, but it's so good. The message here is about how companies and stuff take advantage of people by lying and keeping secrets. And I feel that's a very important message. It was very important back in the 80s, and it's still important, even probably more so today. It's a very good book, and I'd highly recommend it. As I said, it's like 7 hours, So if you don't follow along with an audiobook like I do, like if you just read it by yourself, it'll take you even less than that. It's a very short book to get through. I think you'll enjoy it. But anyway, now I want to talk about the movie The Running Man for a little bit. People might know The Running Man for the 87 action movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I've heard that the movie isn't very accurate to the book, and that's an understatement. It isn't accurate to the book, except for the fact that Arnold's guy's name is Ben Richards. There's a guy named Killian. There's a game show called The Running Man, and it takes place in the future. Outside of those things, they basically have nothing in common. The movie presents the Running Man not really as a survival challenge for 30 days. It's more of like a death match kind of thing. Like 3 or 4 people or whatever go into like a thing with a stalker who's trying to kill them, and then it's kind of a death match. That's what the Running Man is in the movie, but in the book, it's of course it's like a how long are you able to survive challenge. But yeah, anyway, oh yeah, also, so my second day of reading this book, so April 11th is the second day I read this book. Paramount was over at CinemaCon, and they announced that they were making a new Running Man movie, which I knew, and they announced Glenn Powell as the main character, as Ben Richards, for the new Running Man movie. I did not plan that. I did not plan to read The Running Man when they were doing that panel. I didn't even realize it was made by Paramount. That was just a funny coincidence, but I just had to point that out. Anyway, so yeah, since the new movie is coming out soon, the book takes place in 2025. So wouldn't that be insane if the movie came out in 2025? Yeah, that'd be weird, right? But yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts on The Running Man. I'd highly recommend it. I will definitely be reading more Bachman books. In fact, the next one I'm going to read will be Roadwork, which is the 3rd Bachman book. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you like the video. Subscribe if you haven't. And I've been Ben from the Emerald Sword, and I will see you guys next time.